Welcome to the Female Church Leaders Podcast, a weekly resource for women who love God, love the church, and are called to lead. I'm your host, Kadi Cole, church leader, author, and executive coach. After more than 30 years in full-time ministry, often as the only woman at the table, I understand how meaningful yet challenging your calling can be. That's why I created this podcast, to remind you that you're not leading alone. Each week, I'll share practical tools, biblical insights, and honest encouragement for the real challenges female leaders face in ministry, so you can grow your skills, strengthen your faith, and lead with more confidence and joy without burning out or striving to prove yourself. We drop a new episode every Monday because Sunday is coming and you are going to be ready for it. There's a pattern I've noticed over the years as I've coached female leaders in churches across the country. It usually shows up quietly, not in big conflicts, not in dramatic exits. It shows up in conversations that sound like this. I love my church, but I feel stuck. I keep getting great feedback, but nothing's changing. I'm trusted with a lot of responsibility, but I don't seem to move forward. And for a long time, many women assume that means they're missing something, that they need to work harder, be more patient, be more grateful, get another credential. But often what they're experiencing isn't a personal failure, it's a structural one. And today I want to explain it because naming it and understanding it creates movement. It's called the broken rung. Think about leadership development like a ladder. You start serving, then you move up a step to lead a small team. Then you begin to manage a ministry area. Then you direct others who lead. And for many male leaders, those steps clearly exist. They're imperfect, but they're there. What research shows, including the most recent Women in the Workplace report, is that for women, one of the first rungs is often broken. The first real leadership promotion, the step from doing to managing, from helping to deciding. In ministry terms, that rung usually sits between a faithful volunteer or coordinator and a manager, director, or pastoral level leadership. And when that rung is broken, women don't stall at the top. They stall at the beginning. Here's where it gets painfully clear. In most churches, 65 to 80% of volunteers are women. Many ministry teams are run day to day by female leaders. But when you look at first-level organizational leadership roles, the people who manage departments, hold budgets, supervise staff, that's often where women disappear. Now, it may look like your staff meeting is full of women, but most of the time, they are not the ones holding actual leadership positions or seated at leadership tables. Not because they're less capable, not because they're less called, but because access to that first leadership rung often isn't as available. And here's the part that really matters long-term. Early leadership access predicts long-term leadership growth. If you don't get the early reps, you don't build the confidence, credibility, or experience that comes later. So women end up leading before they're developed or developing without being formally recognized as leaders. And that creates exhaustion and self-doubt for female church leaders everywhere I go. Now, I do want to make a confession here. Some of the biggest leadership biases I've had to confront have been in myself and about myself as a woman. I grew up in a church culture where there were very few healthy examples of women leading well. And the examples I did see or hear about often felt harsh, or they were frequently criticized, even by my own family, or it was a cautionary tale about the choices she had made. I knew I didn't want to be that woman. So without realizing it, I absorbed limitations on myself. I questioned myself before questioning the system. I worked harder instead of simply asking better questions. And I held judgment and unrealistic expectations for myself and the women that I led. But then, of course, as the Lord would have it, I started coaching women who were clearly doing everything right. Strong performance reviews, running healthy teams, fruitful ministries, and still not moving forward. That's when I really began to realize it. This isn't about ambition. It's often about access. Paul tells us in Romans 12 to think of ourselves with sober judgment, not inflated, not diminished, clear. So here's the question I want you to consider without panic or any shame. When you look around your leadership environment, are women being promoted at early leadership levels, or do they mostly serve faithfully without advancement? If you look around and no one like you is moving forward, then your limitations may not actually be about you. It's likely about the environment around you. But if you look around and others are getting opportunities and you're not, then it is really important to start asking some clear questions. What skills, exposure, or development do you need next? How do you position yourself to be promoted? Both truths can exist. Wisdom is knowing which one you are living in. This isn't Instagram comparison. This is getting godly clarity. Now, before we move on, I want to pause and speak directly to some of you who are a little more, well, shall we say, seasoned, like me. Maybe you're in your late 30s or 40s or 50s or even your 60s and beyond. Listen, there are a lot of you in the church. You have been faithful. You've served, often quietly. You've carried the weight without recognition. And in many cases, you were never given early leadership opportunity when it mattered most. If that is you, please hear me clearly. You have not missed your moment. Leadership formation is not age dependent. It's opportunity dependent. And while early access makes things easier, it is never too late to ask for what you want, learn what you've missed, and grow forward from where you are now. What does become limiting is when women internalize the idea that they're always catching up, that they need to always be learning, always observing, always being coachable, but never fully stepping into clarity or confidence. Scripture names this pattern plainly. 2 Timothy 3:7, Paul describes people who are always learning, but never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. That's not humility. That's hesitation disguised as spirituality. Godly leadership requires honest self-assessment, naming where you are still growing, and naming where you have become strong and capable, especially when it centers on the spiritual gifts God has given you. When you see yourself clearly, not harshly, not falsely, others learn how to see you clearly too. You are allowed to learn, you are allowed to grow, and you are allowed to stand fully in what you now know. Growth doesn't mean staying small. Growth means moving forward with honesty and wisdom. And that kind of leadership is deeply needed in the church right now. There's one more layer to the broken rung I want us to talk about. And this one is especially important for those of you who do have influence now. One of the most consistent findings in leadership research is this: women don't advance because they have mentors. They advance when they have sponsors. And a sponsor is different than a mentor. Mentors give advice. Sponsors give access. Mentors talk with you. Sponsors talk about you in rooms that you are not in yet. Sponsors use their credibility, their voice, and their position to create opportunities that others don't have access to. And most women never get one, which means something shifts when we become the ones with influence. For the women you lead directly under your purview, you can offer real stretch opportunities. You can invite them into meetings earlier than feels comfortable. You can let them try, fail, recover, and grow without rescuing them. You can say she's ready even before she believes it herself. And as you grow in leadership, you have more influence systemically. You can advocate. You can name giftedness in people. You can challenge assumptions. You can ask, why not her? You can put forward names that would otherwise be overlooked. In other words, you can become what most of us never had. And I want to be honest, this is not always emotionally easy. Many of us grew up dreaming of an Esther moment, being seen, being chosen, being elevated at just the right time, stepping in when it counts and saving the day. And sometimes God gives us that chance. But what I've seen far more often is this: most of us, especially in this generation, are called to be Vashti before we ever get to be Esther. Vashti is the queen who went first. She took the hit of an immature, arrogant king husband. She paid a personal price that changed the system. She absorbed consequences that made room for someone else to rise differently. And here's the hard truth. Vashti doesn't get a parade. She has scars. But without Vashti, there is no Esther. So if you find yourself carrying more scars than trophies, if you've paid costs others won't ever see, if the doors you open benefit someone younger, shinier, or more celebrated than you, please hear this. That may be one of the most significant kingdom contributions you ever make. God sees what it costs you. He sees your obedience. He sees the restraint. He sees your faithfulness that doesn't look glamorous. And he does not let that kind of leadership go unnoticed. Both roles matter. Both are honored by God, and both save people. There's a small but powerful verse in Zechariah 4:10. It says, "Do not despise the day of small beginnings." The broken rung is a small beginning problem. It's not about skipping steps. It's about having access to the first ones. God often grows leaders through small, early opportunities, a manageable stretch, visible responsibility, real, candid feedback. And when those moments are missing, growth slows. Not because God isn't faithful, but because formation needs structure. Comparison that leads to discouragement isn't from God, but comparison that leads to courage is. So here's your one action step for this week. Ask for one stretch opportunity that builds a new leadership skill for your toolbox. Not a title. We're not looking for promotion. Just one rung. That might sound like leading a project from start to finish, managing a small budget, supervising a volunteer leader, or representing your ministry in a planning meeting. Identify it, name it, ask for it, and frame it as development, not ambition. Early access in your leadership growth changes everything. If today stirred something in you, I want you to know you're not imagining this and you're not alone. That's why we built tools like the Sticky Floor Quiz to help you discern whether what you're experiencing is internal, structural, or developmental, and what you can do next. You can take the quiz by following the link in our show notes. You're not behind, friend. What feels slow to you may be steady movement from heaven's perspective. Keep walking faithfully in what God has entrusted to you. Fruit comes in due season, and your time is coming. And we will be here to cheer you on every step of the way. I'm so glad we got to spend this time together on the Female Church Leaders Podcast. I hope you're walking away encouraged, equipped, and reminded that your calling truly matters. To keep growing, join us for our next Closing the Leadership Gap cohort at closingtheleadershipgap.com. It's a guided coaching experience, including live Q&A with me, designed to accelerate your leadership journey. If this podcast has been helpful to you, would you please take a moment to follow, rate, and share it? Your engagement helps the algorithms suggest our resources to female church leaders we haven't had a chance to meet yet. And don't forget to follow at Female Church Leaders on Instagram for encouragement and leadership tools designed just for you. You can also follow my personal feed at Kadi Cole, spelled Kadicole. Keep leading faithfully, keep growing your leadership gifts, and I'll see you next Monday because Sunday is coming and you are going to be ready for it.